Hello again. In this video, we're organizing our folder structure, adding all of our states and all of our dialogue, all of our next state conditions, and creating a game that we can play the full way through with a start, a middle, and an end. Let's jump in and get started. So here is your challenge. It's also what we're covering in this video. We're going to add an introduction state with some instructions to the player. We'll add a game over state with some sort of play again. We'll create all of our story states. We'll copy in our text. We'll hook up our next states, and we'll make sure we have our folder structure nicely organized. So let's start with the folder structure. Actually, I'll do things a little bit back to front from where I had my challenge slide just there. Give myself some space on the window. Just a note, if you hold down Control and you roll your mouse wheel, you can move in and out, or you can grab the little doodad down the bottom here and slide around like that if you prefer this sort of structure to be looking at your folders. First thing I'll do is right-click, Create Folder, and I will call this Scripts. So we can grab our two script files and plop them in there so they're out of the way, nicely organized. There we go. Next up, I will right-click, Create Folder, and I'll call this States. If it wants to auto-complete, there we go. Not auto-complete, but just general complete. I was thinking about something, and we will, let's see, we don't need room 1 anymore. I'm going to delete that. That was just placeholder, and we likewise don't need room 2. I will delete that as well. Starting state, well, that was actually, if I have a look at my flow diagram, that was actually state A1. So I'll rename that now. Just click on that once, or when you're hovered or when you're clicked on your file, you can hit F2. We can call this A1. Now, it's up to you if you want to get a little bit more detailed, a little bit more professional, we'll say. Then you could use the name of it, A1 outside hanger in here. So A1 dot outside hanger. So then it's super clear. Not only can you order your files, because they'll be alphanumerically ordered, but you can also read on it and see, that's exactly what this state is, to make sure that there's no confusion. Now we will drag this state file into the states directory. I need a couple of other folders in here, actually. I'm going to give myself a bit more structure, create a folder. So I'm inside the states folder, creating a new folder, which will be called intro, and then another folder. Lots of folders in this video. What did you do today? Made a lot of folders. Okay, this is going to be called game over. And then I'll create another folder, which I will call Hangar, because in my game, the player in this particular section of my game is running around in the hangar. So it gives me some sort of structure. If I have, say, 7 different major sections of my game, then I can have them grouped and organized into these particular sections of the game. Makes it easier to find things. You don't want to just have a huge, long list of state files. It gets a little bit tricky to find them. So I'll drag outside Hangar into Hangar. There we go. Now it's no longer outside hanger. Look at that for inception meta point. Accidental meta point there. Okay, so I have my one state file in here. Let's go over into intro, right click, create a state, and we'll call this state introduction. And I better give it a number. We'll call it A0. So in the introduction, we're just saying something like, welcome to this game. It's a choose your own adventure, be careful what you wish for, or something clever like that. At each stage, you'll be asked to push a key on the keyboard, for example, 1 or 2 or 3. We could write in here, if we want to add something in terms of quitting the game for in the future, we might say at any point in time, push Q to quit. We don't have that hooked up yet, but that could be a thing to give people that ability to be able to quit. Okay, so we've got our introduction in that there. That would be our starting state. So remember, we need to find on game, need to find what is our starting state. Now it's this A0 introduction. Drag that in. So that will be the very first state that our game plays when we hit play. And that will be from there. We can then say go to. We'll put this in now. We will go to in states in here. We need to make 1. That will give us the selection option. And we'll say go to outside hanger. There we go. Okay, so we've just got our introduction flow. Really important to get game flow so people can start, have the game, and then finish, and then know how to restart the game. Speaking of finishing, we'll go to game over. We'll create ourselves a state in here. We'll call this, now let me have a look at what I called it on my flow diagram, X1 game over. Okay, so this is X1 game over. Okay, and then I did have some information in here, I'll just go in here and copy that. Copy, copy, copy. Great. And then click. And I was just copying with Control-C. I assume you know how to do a copy and paste, Control-C, Control-V, or Command-C, Command-V on the Mac. Okay, and that is in there. I've just put in my little bit of story text, and then it's saying, what do you want to do? Yes, play again. So if someone does want to play again, I think, so we've got 2 states in here, I'll just add in 2. If they do want to play again, I think they would go straight to the hangar. If they don't want to play again, then I think we would take them back to the introduction screen, which gives them instructions. It's kind of like a main menu, instructions on how to quit if they want. Okay, so we've hooked up that flow for the intro, for the game over, and now to put in all of our states, I'm going to bomb in a whole bunch of them in here. So create state, and I'll call this A2, and then click on A2, Control D to duplicate, and that will call it A3. Wonderful. Duplicate, duplicate. So I'm doing Control D or Command D. That duplicates the file. And because there's nothing in these files, it's okay to duplicate it. I've gone up to A12. Did I need to go up to A12 on my diagram here? I go up to A11. Okay, that's cool. So now we can start with the B's, and we can, so A12, we can make this B1, click on that, duplicate, B2, B3, B4, B5, I think we went up to B6, and B6, that's where we went up to. Okay, so now I've got all of my states in there, they're all sitting in Hangar. What I need to do is copy in all of the story text, and then hook up what is the next state that we go to, making sure, being super careful that the instructions of click 1 to go somewhere and click 2 to go somewhere, making sure that I put the state that is being described in 1 in element 0 and the state that is being described in 2 in element 1. And if I've got a third state, then that would be in element 2, just to make sure that the button is corresponding to the state. So what I'm going to do is pause the video now and put in all of my story text. If you want to do the same, if you're following along and doing this and putting in a whole bunch of your own story, then please do that now. Add all in all of your states, and I'll see you back here in a moment. I'm pretty sure you don't want to watch me copying and pasting for 10 minutes, so I'll pause the video and I'll be back here in a moment when I've done that. Welcome back. I've added all of my states here, and as I was going through that process, I found it really easy to see which of my states have I definitely hooked up the next states for, because you can see as you cycle through, just with the left and right arrows on your keyboard, as you cycle through, you can see, yep, yes, 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 and then I'd notice, oh, no, there's nothing in there, and then I'd look at my diagram again and see for state B5, what do we need to do here? B5 needs to head off up to B6. Makes sense. So then I would drag B6 over to where it says next states, and that automatically says size 1 and drops B6 in there, which is cool. Okay, one thing I'll show you is when you play your game, if you click on this button up here, maximize play, you can toggle that on when it's light, whitish color, that means it's on. Clicking play means that your game screen will take up, your game window will take up the entire screen. So you can see here, welcome to the game, bad mistake on here. It doesn't say 1 to continue. So as you play through, you'll find bugs and you'll find issues. Then pause the game, find that state that is in our intro state. Click on there. We need to say push 1 to continue. Okay, cool. Found that. I'm going to save this. I haven't saved for a while. Onwards and upwards. The other thing I'll point out while I'm showing you stuff that I've done just now, I had 2 success states. I've put them in as well, in addition to the game over state that I had. I didn't show you that before I started putting in all my work. These 2 green guys in here, I put those in game over because at the moment they represent game over for the game. So I need to loop back to the start of the game when I do this. Okay, so let's click play. Just make sure it's all working. I'm going to do push 1, read it a little bit, kind of do a bit of random button pushing, make sure I don't get stuck. Should hit some sort of death at some point. Clunk. Okay, cool. And one thing you might see as you're doing this is we get an error. This is our first kind of significant error that we're coming across that for now we're going to ignore because it's not breaking our game, but it's in nearly every circumstance we should be paying close attention. Anytime you see this red icon here, the red icon down the bottom, that means danger, danger, Will Robinson, something has gone wrong. For now, all it means is we have set up in our script that the player can push 1, 2, or 3, but some of our states only have, for example, 1 option that they can push. So one state that they can go on to next. So from here, if I was to push key 2, then it would throw this error saying, hang on a minute, you pushed 2, that's outside of our range. For now, we're going to leave that. There are ways to sort that out and resolve that, but for now it's cool. We're not going to worry about that. That's not the purpose of this particular exercise for the moment, and it's something the player's not going to see, and it's not breaking our game, so that's cool. But usually we would jump on any sort of error that we get. They're super important to take notice of. Okay, so we've got a full game that we can loop through. Great work. I'll see you in the next video.